let's get started. And as people
Yes.
come to join in, they can join us. But I want to be mindful of everyone's time today and also of our guests' time. Um, the plan this afternoon is for us to have Nelson talk with us a little bit about seeing um, the issues and the things, the situation that exists with the Native American peoples in New Mexico and of course across the United States. And after he has had a bit of time to share information with us, then if we have questions, we'll open it up to questions for anyone who has a question for Nelson. So that's the format for the afternoon. I am so thrilled to welcome Nelson Capitan to our church and to our congregation. I had the pleasure to serve with Nelson in the Presbytery of Santa Fe um, leadership team for a couple, 2, 3 years, something like that, and got to know him that way. And he was the moderator in 2014 of the Presbytery of Santa Fe. And somehow he talked me into taking minutes for that group. And as a result of that, I ended up having that job for about the 3 or 4 years that we served in that body together. And so we'd kind of get our heads together and figure out if what I had kept track of was indeed what had happened. And usually we could come to some agreement about that. And it was always a joy and a delight. I'm happy to welcome Nelson back to Las Vegas today because he has shared with me that he was a student at New Mexico Highlands University from 1986 to 1988. So he knows Las Vegas, he knows this area, he knows our church. And so it's fun to welcome him back and to know that about him. Nelson is a Navajo and he lives in Laguna Pueblo, and I'll let him tell you why if he gets to that. His wife is Gwen, and they have 3 children, Gina, Joshua, and Derek. He has been an elder at the Laguna United Presbyterian Church for many years. He was, as I said, the Presbytery moderator for the Presbytery of Santa Fe in 2014. He has since served on the stewardship team for the Presbytery, was the coordinating team leader last year, and serves now on the Presbytery's Personnel Committee and the Young Adult Volunteer Program. He is a board member for the Albuquerque YAV program now. He also serves as the moderator for the Native American Ministries Coordinating Committee for the Synod of the Southwest. And you will be reminded that the Synod of the Southwest includes New Mexico and Arizona and has 4 presbyteries in that geographic area. He is also an active member of the American Indian Outreach Committee and has served on that committee, he says, for a lot of years. He must be getting to my age where he doesn't remember how many years he's been doing some of those things. In 2014, he was awarded the New Mexico Distinguished Public Service Award. So I'm going to be quiet and turn this over to Nelson Capitan. Nelson?
Yeah.
Yate, Shikis. That means hello, my friends. I just want to thank you for allowing me part of this program, being part of your church there. So as Carolyn said, I'm familiar with Las Vegas. As Randy Campbell would say, the original Las Vegas. As he always says at every Presbytery meeting, every Presbytery function that we have. So I know Las Vegas, and I was there for like a couple of years when I was in the late 80s, and I was very young, and I had good joints. I had good feet. I was able to move around better. But life changed after that. So, but here I am. I'm in Laguna. I've been here for 31 years, and slowly but surely that I became involved with the church. And just all of a sudden, what happened was, I go to church with my wife, and my kids were small, and then there's a potluck going on, and I said, oh, I guess I'll help. I guess I'll put these chairs and tables up. So as I got done doing that, and then boom, we're gonna make you an elder forever. So that's what happened. So ever since, I've been slowly been getting involved in the church, learning more about the church and what it means to Laguna being involved. And it just so happens that the Laguna United Presbyterian Church is the only Native American Presbyterian church in the state of New Mexico, compared to Arizona. And Arizona has a slew of Native churches in the Navajo Reservation. And then there's a couple, 2 or 3 churches in Cristo Presbyterian Church in the area of Tucson. And just quite a few more in the Phoenix area as well. So, we raise our flag in New Mexico, being the as far as Laguna being the only Presbyterian church in the Senate, and let alone our Presbyterian Santa Fe. So, so I've been here for 31 years, learning the church, learning how polity works, learning how how to balance out what we can do as a church here on the Laguna Reservation, and serve the community, and then kind of remember that that we're part of the Peace USA, and so it's like a hybrid of some sort, because we have like my wife there in the what's rooted as in us. Is our native traditions, our beliefs, our culture. That's our roots. But then we have the choice of becoming involved in this way as Christians, as Native Christians, and being involved with the church and kind of serving our community and learning about how the history of Laguna works. So that's, since John Manal, how the church was able to come to the Pueblo of Laguna and be one of the recognized churches to be on the reservation besides the Catholic Church, right? Most Pueblos in the state of New Mexico, the Catholic Church is there, whereas that's here as well. But where the tribal government has allowed the Presbyterian Church to be on the Pueblo of Laguna, so. Just outside the reservations here in Laguna, you have the LDS Church, the Baptist Church. So they were given permission by the Pueblo of Laguna to be on the reservation and serve, as a denomination on the reservation. So, so that's a little bit of history of the Pueblo of Laguna and Presbyterian Church here, and we're slowly, for a long time, Laguna has been a mission church, but slowly but surely we're trying to we want to be more involved and more engaged as a church with the rest of I don't know how many churches we have left now in our presbytery, about 39, 40. So we want to have that equal caliber of serving and being involved, besides being the mission church. So we have a few people, being part of the Presbyterian Santa Fe different committees, whether it's COM or the personnel committee or the stewardship, the education coordinating education, what is it called, the education outreach group here in the Presbytery. So one of our elders is involved in that, serves in that capacity. So, but as you might have heard, that the past 2-3 years, maybe I think it was 2016, the the PCUSA repudiated doctrine of discovery. So ever since then, we've been um, trying to be involved with that, trying to allow more awareness to happen, to have people talk about it, to learn about what the doctrine of discovery is. You know, a lot of people will also refer to it as the doctrine of denomination. So that's how and then especially in our area, as far as what happened in the past with the government and the peoples here in this part of the country, here in the Southwest, with the Navajos, the Pueblos, and the Apaches, and trying to know more about that, as far as the history, the reservations in this area, and and just learn from one another. And so that's I think the Presbytery Santa Fe over the past few years or so have been kind of hitting it as far as learning about it, talking about it. You know, we have been to different churches in Albuquerque to be engaged with our other brothers and sisters, to take information to them and have conversations there. So we've been in contact with Sandia Presbytery Church, with Second Presbytery Church, and then also trying to build relations with our neighbors, Grant's Presbyterian Church. I think they call it First Presbyterian, but they're just right over the mesa. But for years, there's been kind of this wall or barrier, and like, we're neighbors pretty much, but we wanted to develop relationships. And at one time, we were whenever we could make arrangements, we did make contact, and they would come to our church, or we would go to their church, and kind of vice versa every now and then, and have little potlucks. So I think that's what we're trying to do as a Native church, is to find a space and find places where we can talk about what is a doctrine of discovery, and especially pertaining to the Southwest, and pertaining to how it affected us, whether it's lands or boarding school experiences, or even just current situations, such as the education of our Native kids, and how impact aid is whether it's McKinley County or San Juan County or Siebel County, in our case, is trying to figure out how can we serve our Native students, and trying to figure out how we can help our students, and the equation and the state of New Mexico always gives us the short end of the stick as far as funding and trying to same thing there, create awareness of what's going on with our communities with public school education. So one of the things that we talk about, one of the things that came up recently is with the Martinez lawsuits, where this family out of Gallup has sued the public school systems of New Mexico for equal opportunity for education. So that's ongoing, and so there's some strides of how that equation, however it's worked out from the state of New Mexico. I think they it goes to legislation, and kind of it's been been tweaking where it can kind of serve our communities, right? So it's kind of places where we can talk about that, so I've been involved in that at that level, and then I kind of share that with the church, and then trying to reach out to people in our immediate in our communities to talk about that, how our students doing. And we every now and then we try to do something at our church to kind of stir that. We had a chess club there. I tried to do that. We did some science fun nights there just to get kids to be engaged in our community. So, that's some of the things that we're doing every now and then. But of course, the pandemic, it's been over years since we haven't done anything. We haven't had church yet just because of our congregation is so small that and a little bit older too, that we haven't had church yet. And then we also are under the executive order from the Pueblo of Laguna to not gather, especially with no more than 5 people. So, on top of the state mandate, there's also the Pueblo mandate here is that we have to go by. So we haven't had church yet. So that's in the meantime, we've just been following church services through the Presbytery Santa Fe. Like this morning, we just watch it from home for the time being and try to be engaged. So every now and then they'll ask one of us to participate in the services sometimes. So I don't know if you've seen. I think I've been once or twice to be part of the virtual worship. So it's just things like that. We try to be helpful, as small as we are, to help the Presbytery of Santa Fe to be involved and to be involved also with the Senate. 2 years ago, we had a gathering for all our Native churches in our Senate through the Native American Ministries Coordinating Committee, and we so that's us. And we met in Flagstaff. We asked for a grant to have that gathering and remind all our churches there in Arizona to just do the best you can as far as who you are as a Native church to be part of their presbytery, such as in Grand Canyon Presbytery or De Cristo Presbytery, and then also the Presbytery Santa Fe, just trying to find space where we can have conversations. And that's one of the things that we always try to stress as far as how can we find a place, how can we find a certain safe place and have a conversation about what people might not know about Native people, what they might not know about Laguna Pueblo and the church there. So we try to, that was it's kind of like an emphasis for all our Native churches to be involved in that way, to reach out even more, to kind of think outside the box as from a mission church, be part of and being involved with the other churches that they're in Grand Canyon or in the Tucson area. So anyway, so that's like I said, I've been here for 31 years. So we have 3 churches. There's 6 villages in the Pueblo of Laguna. So out of those 6 villages, we have three chapels. So we have one in Parahi, Siyama, and Powati. And the other places are Mesita, Old Laguna, the main one, and Encinal. So there's 6 villages in the Pueblo of Laguna, and everybody knows the Laguna Feast in late September, but that's always held in Old Laguna. So that's a big one. So out of those three villages, we have church, and we rotate. When we're having church, we rotate in between every other week. Every other week. So say like if we had church today, we say like we'd be in Siyama. So let's say we had church today and it was in Siyama. So next week, let's say we'll be in Casablanca. Then the following week, Casablanca is part of Parahi, by the way. So, and then the following week we'd be in Pawadi. So we kind of rotate between each church. From what we understand a long time ago, um, the minister would rotate, would switch and serve. There'd be an early worship, say like 9:30 in Siama. And then after that service, he would go to Parahi and do worship there. Then that person would, he or she would go to Pawadi to serve that last service of church. So, but over the years, it's changed where now we, as a congregation, we move from each chapel to serve that community. And it turns out, a lot of people won't really, won't really move around as much because wherever we go, there's always a few people that will attend church there in Pawadi, but they won't necessarily come out to Siama or Parai for whatever reason. I don't know. But it's just right there, I guess, to some of them. But it is kind of quite a ways from to travel to Hawaii sometimes, maybe about 10 miles away. We have to travel north of Old Laguna. So that's how we are at the Laguna United Presbyterian Church. And right now we're roughly about 20 members in our church. So we try to do our best to reassure them that we're make sure that they're doing okay. We call them and hopefully one of these days we'll be back again in church, just depending on the state mandate and also the Pueblo mandate as well. So I don't know what else to talk about, Caitlin. So I don't know if there's any other items that I can mention before questions later.
If you were going to point us in a direction to of things that you would call to our attention about things we should be aware of or should be mindful of among Native peoples, particularly now with the COVID issue, as well as just generally, are there things that come to your mind that you say, well, as I talk to this primarily Anglo audience, what things would I call to their attention that they need to hear about us as a faith community?
Well, there is, as you might have heard, that it hit hard on my reservation, and it's all of a sudden, just people passing and even just over. I just came back from my mom's, by the way. I just came back from Nash City. I went to check on my mom. She has, she got running water in 1990. So and she still uses wood for heat. So I made sure that she had enough wood for the coming week. So, and then sometimes the road can be it gets bad from the main highway to where she lives. And if the road, when it snows or rains, sometimes I have to leave my vehicle by the main road and walk the rest of the way. So luckily she doesn't live that far compared to other people on the reservation where, man, you talk about people living out in with the sticks and lizards. It's probably about 10 miles away from the main road. But I don't know how they do it. But that's still an ongoing issue as far as people not having running water. Some don't have electricity, and like I said, the heat. My mom uses firewood for heating her home. So those are still things that we wrestle with as far as getting around. And there's folks trying to help one another as far as, for a living. They'll have to haul wood and provide wood and to help, like someone like my mother to, we'll buy wood from them. So, things like that that are on the reservations where we don't have paved roads yet. Some parts. There's a lot of people that still don't have running water. So that's always been an issue all these years. And as far as infrastructure too, as far as internet access, it's so tough. That's another issue that we're having as well. So it's kind of hard to get internet access. You had to go to probably about, some people had to drive probably about more than 10 miles to get to local, to find a hotspot, I guess, to have access to that. So, one of the issues, that's the issue with students is students that have internet access, and there's a struggle of kids trying to do virtual learning. So that's an ongoing issue still. Just to remember all those kind of things that, as rural as we are, those are things to still wrestle with. And sometimes, in certain communities, it's still rough in some spots, like such as the Gallups and the Farmingtons and the Grants, where there is some prejudice still going on, where it's kind of hard for some natives to be in those towns sometimes, where there's been histories at those places where there's always clash of native people being there and not getting along. So there's still some underlying issues there as far as the border towns. Something like that is still happening, and just try to understand the laws of how some things have, as far as lands, just trying to understand how lands work as far as what's been lost and what resources we can still, like one of the things that, of course, water in this area, there's we're not sure how much water the people will have this summer, because it's lesser and lesser each year. So upstream from us is Acoma, and then Grants, and then Blue Water keeps going west. So more or less the Pueblo Laguna receives the tail end of waters. That's whatever is remaining. So it's kind of hard for people to plant sometimes. And next they have no choice but to haul water, as opposed to diverting water from the San Jose River. So just that's another issue that we're probably have to deal with here soon, as far as what's going to happen this summer as far as planting, which, by the way, this time of the year also is ditch digging. So as whether you're a tribal member here in the Pueblo Laguna or you're a non-tribal member, we're still obligated to go and help clean the ditches, for just in case if there is water coming through, then those ditches have to be clear for the people who want to plant. And that's something that we have to respect, as far as people who want to plant, and help them that way as a community. That's always been an ongoing tradition in the Pueblo Lagunas, people planting. And even though I might not plant, but I feel obligated to help clear those ditches. And also, it's also my responsibility to have that teaching to my sons, to say that they're just as obligated as I am to help clean out those ditches and serve the community like that as well. So one of the things for me as a Navajo living on the Pebble of Laguna, one of the things I have to do even for any non-tribal member, I have to fill out a form to request to reside on the Pebble of Laguna with my wife and my kids. So every year I have to fill that out. So I have to do that every year. And we also had to present ourselves to the new officers in each village. I mean, not each village, but my wife and kids are affiliated with the village of Siama. So we have to go to Siama on New Year's Day. Usually it's New Year's Day, and we have to present ourselves. And then for myself, I have to present my wife and my daughter. So usually the understanding is that as a male, you present your family. So in this case, I present myself, and I also present my wife and my daughter. My boys are old enough to present themselves now, so they do that every year. So we would say, I'm Nelson Capitan. I'm from Nash City, New Mexico. I'm married to Gwen Capitan. My in-laws are Robert and Josie Mooney, and my daughter is Gianna Capitan. So I want to present myself and my wife and my daughter to the officers and have to support them throughout the year, through tough times and good times, that we support the village officers and the community and help wherever we can, especially at ditch work and at public work, and then also attend their community meetings that they have through the council, the Pebble Laguna council meetings. So the minutes are read, so they involve the community like that. That's what's going on with the government here in Laguna, and there's a say from the villagers if needed. So every other week there's a village meeting, so you're obligated to go to that too, as well as myself to be present those to hear the minutes and to hear about community concerns. So that's our responsibility as a whole for living here in Laguna as a Pueblo tribal member and also a non-Pueblo tribal member here in Laguna. So, I think one of the things that we try to stress is try to learn about the doctrine of discovery is to learn about the laws, the lands, what was lost, and to know about how it led to the boarding schools and how it affected us. And we hear about trauma to some of the people that went to the boarding schools, and it's, most of it is bad, and so just hearing about different folks that from the silent generation talk about it, it's interesting to hear how they went through it and how I think through their faith that they've been able to come this far and still have good relationships with us, the rest of us, to kind of carry on as Native people in our community, in our schools, and just trying to relate and serve as a people here. So I think that's what we're trying to do. As small as we are in Laguna United Presbyterian Church, that we try to reach out and have conversations. And when the Presbytery has this recently, late last year, when they had the anti-racism series on lectures, we were part of that to kind of listen. That provided a space where if there were any issues that need to, created a space where we can talk about certain issues that some people might be reluctant to ask about. So, and of course, I always had to say, yeah, this is great. This is a good place for it, and let's talk about questions and differences if there's any. And so we're thankful that the Presbyterian has done that before, late last year, so we're able to do that. So, but yeah, I would encourage all of you to learn about the doctrine of discovery on your own. And there's it's such a huge document too. From what I've seen it once or twice, but it's just so much material in it. But if you get a chance to look at that, and I think the PCUSA has a, I don't know how you would find it through the PCUSA, but it's there somewhere. But if you get a chance to kind of see that, and it's learn about how it affected our region as far as here in the Southwest. Like I said, with the Navajo people, my people, the Pueblos, and also the Apaches. So does that help, Carolyn, to talk about?
It does, Nelson. And this is a good time to invite people, if they have questions for you, that they ask those questions now. Are there any questions that people would like to ask Nelson, based on either what he has said or what oh, Don.
Yeah, by introduction, not Nelson. I was a physical therapist at Northern New Mexico Rehabilitation, as long as it lasted, here in Las Vegas. And I worked under the directorship of Jay Jones, who came over from Arizona. He was an anthropologist, basically, but I learned a lot about the native population and from him. But I also like history. History is very important, from self-history, genealogy, history of the church, history of the area we live in. And I'm very curious about all types of history. Pardon me. And I was wondering if you've run across anywhere that part of the native history has been partially or permanently erased over the last 100 years.
I don't know if it's been erased, but I just hear different interpretations of history. It's from whether it's to the different denominations and their history of how it's put out there, and then also the state history. So they're all a little bit different, but for the most part, I can't recall any parts that have been erased.
Yeah. Well, history is good or bad, is good to learn from. And hopefully that's happening.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. To know about, most of it is bad. Most of it is, a lot of the lands have been taken, and a lot of people don't realize what's been taken, and especially in this area, as I've been living here, that there's grant land, and it turns out that it was actually part Laguna land or Acoma land, and that's been there's been sectioned off where it serves the surrounding people who settled there. So it's really a sensitive issue, and it can be it can be tough.
I used to live in Montezuma, and I found in the top of a rock wall overlooking the part of the river there, a metate in the rock. It was one rock that was moved there. They made the metate out of the top of the rock. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Are there other questions? Oh, Carol Linder.
Hey, Nelson, you know, we were in Holy Conversations together 10 years ago. I don't know if you remember, but didn't Laguna participate in that? I think with the woman coming in from the Senate, you know, from the presbytery that came in and over 16 months. I think Laguna was involved in that. That's what I remember.
Yeah, we
And-
were involved. I think that was at Covenant Church.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That was interesting. I didn't know that you had the different services in your different villages, and that kind of makes sense. But I was confused. Are you saying that now you have one pastor and the leadership all go to the different villages, or what are you doing now?
So we just worship at all those chapels as a congregation. So
You
before, back
alternate.
in the day, the minister would move around.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have a full-time minister. We haven't had one in eons around here. We always had a part-time, and we done the we use a pulpit supply, and we have a team. So what we do now is we have a team of ministers that they rotate out to serve communions. You know, we would have a minister for communion, and we had the Catherine Robinsons, the Jim Rowe cares, the I can't think of them now, but we have a team of ministers that would come in and serve and help us with worship like 2 times out of the month. And the rest of the time as elders, myself, June Lorenzo, and so we would kind of alternate the days when we would have our own worship time and kind of learn about scripture and learn about how to provide our sermon and kind of, and luckily we had these the ministers at our teams kind of help us along to do that. And of course,
on Amazon.
Rob Craig was a big loss to us. He was been a champion of who we are. I would rely on him a lot about the sermons and different things to help with worship and just being a church. So, and Kay Huggins is also a big plus for us too.
So the other thing I was going to ask you is that just at lunch, I was reading the Smithsonian magazine, and they had a really kind of cool article about Navajo medical providers, Navajo women doctors that are serving Navajo Nation. And they featured like 5. Most of the photographs were amazing, but they talked about how they were using both sort of what we call Western medicine with traditional sort of medicine on the reservation and trying to keep that tradition. And I wondered if you could speak to whether you do that in church. Sorry, that's my daughter.
You're muted.
I know, I muted because my phone was ringing on my computer. So I wondered if you could speak to how you keep your traditions, your Native American traditions, and mesh those with sort of Presbyterian.
Yeah, we do. We always one of our 2 of the ladies here say the Lord's Prayer in Charis, and so we that's always part of our part of worship. And then every now and then I go out of my way I share with my traditions here in Laguna and with the presbytery for the most part to I bring my culture with me and share that. And something that's say like sharing a song, then I might share with the church. So I would have that to provide and have my fans, my Eagle fans, and kind of serve that too I helped with service at one time, and I brought that and I helped the moderators and leaving and coming in to wish them well and say a prayer. So the late Buddy Mollahan, he's Choctaw, and he showed up at my installations as a moderator, and he sang me an honor song. And that honor song, you know, I was installed, and he said he wanted to do that for me. And when he sang it, it took me back to my grandparents on my dad's side. It was he sang it, and halfway through, and I couldn't, I lost it. It took me back. It took me back to my knowledge. That's what I call my grandparents on my dad's side. My knowledge. That's how that sound, that tone, it went back. It took me back to that, and I said, "Oh man!" And by the time I raised my head up again, it was the service was in Ghost Ranch, and I swear there wasn't a dry eye in the chapel there. So it's like, it was a blessing. It was really a blessing that the late Buddy Mollahan sang that song for me, and it meant a lot. And so, you know, like it happens like that sometimes. It's God's way. It's God's blessing to allow that to happen. We share that. We're glad to share that.
I remember that, Nelson. I was there.
Good. I'm glad.
Let me, Nelson, may I follow up on just a question about that? It's just a personal observation, perhaps. Listening to you and reading your bio and so forth, we are so blessed. We feel like you're a very special person, but considering the fact that you have so many different parts of you, I wonder how you manage to prioritize that. How do you keep it all together instead of just simply being fragmented in small components of your life?
That's a good question, because sometimes if I do think about it too much, then I kind of like, where do I start and stop again? But I think it's just some of the things that I learned over the years that I, you know, just trying to have patience with how our culture is, that we don't rush it, even though, you know, I say to my friends here in Laguna or at home, it says, I don't like by going by Indian time. So what that means is, you know, I guess we'll start whenever, you know, whether we start worship at 10 o'clock, and if it goes into 10:30, I guess that's when we'll start service. But I think just having support from my wife and my family here, from my mother, from you know, just trying to get that right support. And I think those little bits and pieces really do help me get through the days, get through the weeks, and to trying to figure out what's the best route for us, what's the best route for our people, and trying to invite them and be part of the team. You know, one of the things I always like to say is win-win. Whether that's with my family or with the church or with the presbytery, the synod, the PCUSA, win-win. And so that's I think that's how I go about it.
Nelson, could you talk about the healthcare services that are available in your area for people?
Yes, there's an Indian Health Service that serves this area here in Laguna. So the Indian Health Service facility serves Laguna, Acoma, and there's another area called Tohajili. That's a reservation of Navajos, a small group, a band of Navajos. So it serves them. But they also have, in the past 10 years, they built another facility out by Tohajili, another Indian Health Service that's kind of like a satellite clinic, but it's a pretty nice facility. So, and then here in Laguna, they've been building one for the past year or so. So it's a smaller type of clinic, satellite Indian Health Service clinic that's going to serve Laguna. So we have those facilities here in this area here. So, and of course, the ones in where my mom's at, there's Gallup Indian Health Service, there's Tohatchee, and then Shiprock. So those are places nearby that area. So it's a little bit out of the ways, but they're within, within driving distance still.
Has the COVID vaccine been distributed in your area?
Yes, in fact, we got, my wife Gwen got her shot. She completed her first and second shot. And later this week, I think on Wednesday, myself, my daughter, my oldest son will get our second shot. So it's been ongoing. So we're thankful for that.
Carol?
And also that's been going on in Navajo land too.
Richard?
Yes, I was wondering, especially up on the Navajo reservation where your mother lives, is the problem of running water one of that there is no water, that no matter how deep you dug, there wouldn't be wells, or is it of resources to dig wells where there would be water?
Yes, yes, and yes. So it's really rural, and it's just kind of trying to find that spot to find wells and to treat those wells, it's to have that infrastructure to treat potable water for homes. That's another that's a main thing, I think, for most sites out on our reservation, is how rural it is and how far it has to go, and so it takes I don't know how that works when they install wells and serves a really remote area. So
And I was wondering, in Laguna, do you have wireless to all 6 villages for students?
we have wireless in Old Laguna, Parahi, a little bit of Siama, but the harder places are Encinal and Pawadi. Is kind of tough going because that's kind of like in the foothills, southeast of Mount Taylor, and those are kind of hard spots to get internet sometimes, let alone cell phone reception.
There is legislation in the New Mexico legislature this term that is a bill that would provide planning for and then the implementation of getting broadband across the state, which would be great. But, that remains to be seen whether it'll pass or not. I think it's moving along, but I don't know where it is right now.
Yeah, it was a short session.
Yeah. Are there other questions that anyone has for Nelson?
I'd like to ask one. Nelson, you talked about your job as a community member cleaning ditches in order to prepare for the possibility of water for the fields. And I would argue that in a lot of our Anglo culture, there isn't that same sense of obligation to community. What do you think we lose by not feeling that kind of obligation in a community setting? Or do we gain anything?
There is a sense of accomplishment when it's when we finish and that the ditches are clear. So that the more the guys that are out there to clean it up, that's great. And it took me a while to kind of to be part of that group or whoever it is, because but slowly, I think by the end of the day, you get to meet somebody that you normally don't meet. So you just pass them on the road, but you get to know them and you kind of learn from who they are, their family, and you gain a relationship to say, oh, this is who I am. This is where we live at, and my family's so and so, and it brings that sense of community together. So there's that sense of that we're able to help someone that wants to plant. So they're always thankful, and we have to think of the others downstream as well. Sometimes we get to know people like that as far as like building relationships. So that's a gain, but it's tougher sometimes when there's hardly anybody that participates. So that there's that that causes there is a loss in that sense, where it's just when it's just a normal guys, the usual guys, it makes the work harder and longer days out there. So I think that would be a negative to some extent. But when everybody's on the same page, win-win, we get it done, and there's a sense of say, hey, water's gonna cut down for these people. And it's a big deal too when water comes through, and they'll release it, and they have songs for that too. They have songs for the water coming through, and from what I hear, that's also a special experience as well.
I love that they have songs for it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Songs for the water. We
Yeah.
kind of understand that a little bit in northern New Mexico. Don,
No, I can't have something.
Kent?
Yeah, and I got to ask this: what is the mood in Laguna with the nomination of Representative Holland to be Secretary of Interior? And how did they take the hearings last week? And that's my clock going off. So, how did they take the hearings last week?
I think when that happens, when I think everybody was excited, everybody was happy that she's taking on that role, and just over the weekend, like I said, I went to my mom's and I saw the hearings, and there were other nation leaders that spoke for her, and was with I read the comments in the article over the weekend that she's a native lady with all these white men, and they're asking her, they're drilling her, but she kind of stood her ground as far as as best as she could. So there's that's happened. I guess that happened, but for the most part, I think we're all glad that she's kind of taking that responsibility for the country, and that so yeah, generally everybody's excited for that. So
Yeah.
we hope she does a good job.
Well, I think there's one word for that. Finally.
Right.
Great. Are there other questions for Nelson while we have him here? Anybody else? I don't have my big view on. I need to get my gallery view on. Anybody other questions anyone has? Very good. Well, Nelson, thank you for your willingness to come talk with us, and hope to see you soon somewhere else, over this way perhaps, or maybe we'll come to visit you.
Sure. You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out and as I said earlier, to allow this space and time to kind of learn a little bit from me, but at the same time, I hope you all can go forth and kind of keep learning about, Native people and how you can continue to learn about culture and just narrowing the gap in that sense. So thank you for having me. And yeah, I hope to see you all soon.
Very good.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Nelson.
everyone. Thank you.
Carolyn,
Yes, sir.
can I just close with prayer?
Please do.
Okay. Let us pray. Loving God, we pray again this time, this day, this winter time, this sense of spring coming on, that we're thankful for this moisture and this wind and this cold again. We'll be strong with it, and that helps us today, this Sunday, and that we get ready again for a new day tomorrow, and that we try to do our best with our faith, our love, our strength, and our charity again to continue on to give us this life you have given us, this breath. And we're thankful for all of us to be here again in our church, in our community, and to remember our loved ones far and near, that they be all right again, for ourselves to keep learning to do our best and know this way again, that we continue to learn from one another, to learn from your word, God, and to learn from our brother Jesus Christ, to try to follow him as best as we can, as a fragile people, that we continue to learn and like this. So we're thankful for this time and for our lives going forward. I say this name, and Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, wishing not sleep, wishing not sleep, wishing not sleep, wishing not sleep. Amen.